Gateway to Reason is a weekly podcast for the Gateway to Reason 2 conference in St. Louis, next August 12th to 14th, 2016. Each week, we feature guests, news, and topics for discussion, with an emphasis on inquiry, skepticism, humanism, science, free thought, and education, with interviews, guests, and more. I'm your host, Thomas True, so use the next 60 minutes to engage your mind and listen to Gateway to Reason's podcast. Send us your email questions and comments at podcast@gatewaytoreason.com. All right, this is Thomas True with you. I welcome you to the Gateway to Reason podcast, and I thank you very much for listening. I want to welcome you to the Gateway to Reason podcast, and you can find out more about our conference taking place in St. Louis next summer, August 12th to 14th, at our website, gatewaytoreason.com. And with that, I also want to tell you that on that website, our partner is Evolve Fish, where you can find various items, including t-shirts, buttons, patches, things like that, at Evolve Fish, and I want to thank them for being a partner with Gateway to Reason. And if you have questions, comments, etc., you can contact me at podcast@gatewaytoreason.com. With us today, I have Phil Ferguson from Polaris Financial Planning. And Phil, I want to welcome you. How are you doing?
I am fantastic, Thomas. Thank you, and it's a great honor to be on your show.
All right. Well, thank you for helping us out. I have known Phil for several years now, and I guess those of you out there who aren't familiar with Phil, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do?
What I do, well, one, I love to take care of my lawn. That's a little hobby of mine, and it's weird because I'm always going, always thinking, solving problems, and sometimes that's actually a problem. But I kind of feel like, what's the guy in the movies that...
A lawnmower man?
Well, not at one point, but the box of chocolates.
Forrest Gump.
I kind of feel like Forrest Gump because when I'm mowing, I'm only mowing.
Oh, yeah.
And that's it. I know that's not what you wanted, but I figured
actually, as an aside, that's how I lost 100 pounds is mowing my lawn and doing yard work. So, but anyway, go on.
Well, that and lots of vegetables, as I know from our eating meetings, and I gotta follow your lead better, buddy, but we'll get there. Let's see. I've been active in the secular movement for about a decade. I've previously been on the board of the Secular Student Alliance and Atheist Alliance International.
Both awesome groups.
My business, Polaris Financial Planning, which has been going for almost 20 years. I think January will be the official 20-year anniversary.
Party at Phil's house.
That's right. I have been sponsoring conventions of various sizes and sorts for almost a decade. I give talks at conferences. I've done conferences as big and amazing as Gateway to Reason,
Yay.
The Amazing Meeting, and some others, Skepticon. And I also do a lot of regional and sometimes even local things where it's 20, 30 people. It's all good. Everybody's important, and you always try to give your best presentation no matter how big or how small the crowd is.
Absolutely. Hey, do you know much about the Reason Rally coming up and the one that was about 3 years ago?
Well, the funny you mentioned the one 4 years ago, Polaris Financial Planning, which you can be found at polarisfinancialplanning.com.
Go to it.
Was the only corporate sponsor for the Reason Rally 4 years ago.
Oh, wow.
I'm currently having discussions with being a corporate sponsor again. I'm not sure if that's going to work out for various complicated reasons.
Yeah.
They may or may not want corporations. It's not me. And that's fine if they don't want to tie business into it. That I respect that. That's not a problem. I know it's in June 4th. I know that they have changed the executive director. I don't know why, and it's probably best that way.
Well, yeah, sometimes things happen. You get busy or other obligations. Who knows?
Everyone's lives are complicated, and changes are needed to be made. But I'm looking forward to it. The one 4 years ago, I think, was 30,000 people. It was complete anarchy in a way, but beautifully organized and great fun.
And it rained.
It was kind of chilly. It was kind of rainy. But this year it was
nice the Thursday and Friday prior to that, I was out visiting all Washington, D.C., blah, blah, blah. This looks great, all that kind of stuff. And then I was like using my magical weather thinking in my head that, okay, if I wear shorts, it'll be warm.
There you go. Well, it's kind of like one of those things that, if you wash your car, it'll rain. So
yeah, magical weather thinking.
Yeah. So that's cool. Polaris has been for a decade and will continue to do 10% donation to the secular movement every year, 10% of gross revenue. And sometimes that's conference sponsorships. Sometimes it's donations to the various secular organizations. There's, getting a little creative. So if you are running a conference somewhere in the United States and you want a speaker, or if you want someone to table, or if you're looking for a possible sponsor, let me know. We can start that conversation and see if we can work out something.
And I'll see you next summer in St. Louis.
Well, it's funny because if your conference keeps growing within a couple of years, that might actually be the biggest conference in the country.
Well, that is the vision. We have to make the event happen. Of course, from the feedback that I've gotten from people like you who were at the first one and people who attended, I've been very happy with the feedback overall, that there's been comments to the sort of how well it was organized, how smoothly it ran, especially for a 3-day event, the lineup, et cetera, like that. So other than me, patting myself on the head, why don't you do that? What do you think?
Well, you know my opinions, but of course for the listeners,
sure.
The one drawback that I would say is that you did too much of the work yourself, but that's not secret. I've made that count before.
Delegate is what he says.
Delegate. And it's one of those things, I get it for the first year. You wanted to make sure you knew how everything worked and make sure that it did work, and it did, but you were running around like a crazy man trying to introduce speakers while running the table selling candy bars. So that needs to be delegated more, of course. But yeah, quite amazingly well run. And I'm delighted that so many people in St. Louis came and wanted to help out. And it's so nice. I think this is going to be one of the growing trends, by the way. So listeners, I'm playing out my crystal ball. Back 10 years ago, not only was I often one of the youngest people at every conference that I went to, now I'm often...
You're 17 then?
Yeah. Often now I'm one of the older people because the youth is so incredible. Another thing that was very different is there was maybe 5 conferences, and they were national, and they were big organizations like American Atheists, American Humanists, things like that. And they would move their conference around the country so that people that were members in that area might be able to go. And I think that paradigm is shifting, and it's going more towards regional conferences that occur in the same place at the same time of the year, over and over and over, like Skepticon and like Gateway to Reason, other conferences like that, where it's in that area. You can put that in your calendar a year in advance, and you can drive to it. And the beautiful thing about St. Louis, with the exception of the extreme northeast, New England, and southern half of Florida and the West Coast, the vast majority of people can drive to St. Louis in an 8-hour drive. It is an amazingly wonderful location so that so many people can get to it. And if it's there every year and we know the date a year in advance, people can schedule it and go. It's a beautiful, fun city. You can go up into the top of the arch. You can go to the city.
Yeah, there's a lot to do here in the city, especially nearby the conference. We have the zoo. We have a science center, Forest Park.
And there's a planetarium. Just amazing place to go. And it's kind of like the Reason Rally, where it's not just the conference. You can go 2 or 3 days before or after and visit the city and make a little vacation for you and your significant other. And if you have kids, go have fun, like you said, with the zoo and all those science museums.
Those are free here in St. Louis too, so that's an extra value added.
And that is a beautiful zoo, and right across the street from, I guess a couple blocks over from the campus, from the university, is a wonderfully large, probably one of the nation's largest city parks. Absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, bigger than Central Park, they say.
It's so big that there's a golf course in the middle of it, and you can still walk around it and be in the park. It's amazing.
There's a golf course, and and includes a zoo. They have a Broadway-style outdoor performance theater there. And where the conference is being held this year, it's in slightly different location, still part of Washington University in St. Louis, in the Del Mar Loop. Now, the Del Mar Loop gets its name from, there's a loop at the top of the Del Mar Street, where in the past they had trolleys come in and people get off and on. Well, they're rebuilding or adding the trolley back.
Oh, nice.
And that actually gets you off right in front of where the conference is being held. You can literally stay anywhere on the Metrolink, take the Metrolink, get off at the trolley stop. You don't even have to drive. And all that Del Mar Loop area has shopping, entertainment, restaurants, all kinds of neat stuff as well. Again, that's another cool option to have it in a larger city and things like that. So, but with that said, I want to hear just a little bit more about what you do, because as you know, I feel that your business is vitally important, not for just people's financial health, but for our cause in general. So if you can maybe give us, 5-minute breakdown.
Yeah, sure. Well, Polaris Financial Planning, like I said, almost 20 years now. What I've developed is kind of a way to look at investing that is not the sales pitchy kind of way. Although, ironically, since I'm on a show, I'm inherently have to be somewhat sales pitchy by default.
You better be.
Yeah. I came at this all from an academic perspective, and I had in my talk the idea that when I came home from my first year of college, my dad sat me down and showed me where all the investments were. He was this whole dad thing of saying, in case I get hit by a truck, I want you to be able to take care of mom and your brother. And I grew up thinking my dad was a stock picking genius because he'd always tell us about the stories, the stocks that he bought that doubled, tripled, went up 10 times. When we sat down and actually looked at the data, I realized there were some stocks that went to zero or lost 95%. And
right.
We had one. I said, well, if it's gone down so much, why do you still hold it? And he said, it costs more to sell it than it's worth. In one way, this is very heartbreaking for me because I kind of idolized my dad, and I still do in many ways. But all of a sudden, I realized that he wasn't a stock-picking genius like I thought my entire life. He was a normal investor trying his darndest and doing lots of research. I mean, he spent a lot of time on these things and still had lots of misses. And as I grew up and learned more about skepticism and how we think, he himself would remember the hits and forget the misses. We always talk about
bias, huh?
Yes. And who wants to tell a story around the dinner table about a stock that you bought for $10,000 and now it's worth $10?
Well, I lost a whole bunch of money today. Pass the biscuits.
So that's crazy. So I thought to myself, how does one invest? What's the best way to invest? And I would read book after book, do research. I, of course, completed my college degree, and then I got a master's in business and finance to learn about corporations and how they work. And there's certain fundamental things, and some of them, most of your listeners are already going to know. Buy low and sell high. Duh.
Right.
Can I swear on your show, by the way?
Yeah, if you know how.
I know.
There are no tags.
And buying and holding. These are very simple things, and they're so simple that sometimes they're hard to freaking do. The industry is designed in such a way that salespeople get paid when you make transactions, like a broker.
Right.
Or they get paid a commission when you buy something, like a person that works for a big brokerage house or a insurance salesperson.
A car dealership.
Right. And often these organizations have associations, they have contracts, they have relationships with different insurance companies or mutual fund companies, and they are the ones that pay the commissions. So the person may present themselves to you as working for you, and they may actually benefit you, and you may actually do better than you would on your own. But in the end, they work for the person that pays them. You, as the client, aren't paying them. The big brokerage firm or the insurance company is paying them. And so what I set my company up as, I only get paid by the client, and that's in my registration with the government. And if I violate that, the penalties are massive. The only way I get paid is by the client. So now it's truly a relationship where the client pays me, I try to make the client the most money, and because it's an annual fee, and I tell people to ask all the time, so I'll start with that. It's 1% a year or less for larger accounts, and by that I mean over 500,000 and or $1 million. The fee gets bigger every year as your account gets bigger.
Right.
So now the client and I have the same goal, is for that account to get bigger. And the first time I said this, I kind of scared myself, but people seem to like it. I'll tell them that you get to put my greed to work for you.
That sounds like a good
So we have that. We have this symbiotic.
Instead of the other option, which is putting the greed at odds with your goals.
Well, in someone that sells you an annuity, they might make up to 15% commission. So if you invest $100,000, they can make $15,000. And then after that, you are an annoyance. I get 1%. It might take me 15 years to make that 15%. But I will grant you, because there are very smart listeners listening to the show, right, as the accounts go up in value, I do make more and more money. But there's nothing preventing a client from at any point saying, Phil, thanks, I've now decided you're an asshole and I'm out. And they just stop paying me. And so...
And one thing that you do emphasize on your show is long-term is the perspective for most people to have, you know.
When you said that so perfectly, most people, you're absolutely right. Even people who are approaching retirement or even in retirement, depending on when they're getting there, if someone gets to retirement at 55, let's say they're that fortunate and they've done that well, there's a good chance they're going to live 30, maybe 40 more years or longer. I mean, the odds start getting pretty long, but you're still a long-term investor. So most people are long-term investors, but when you do get closer to retirement, usually about 10 years out, we start creating a thing that I've coined the cushion, simply because a place that gives you a soft landing or something you can lay your head on at night, because the purpose of money is to make your life better. If your investments make you lose sleep or make you worry, you're not doing it right. There's no one right answer for anybody, but you do need to have a certain amount of money that, quite frankly, makes less money, but it has less risk so that you know it's going to be there so you can pay your bills. And once we've got that figured out for someone who's close to or in retirement, the rest we can figure out how to invest. So the cushion needs to be as big as it needs to be, but we want it to be as small as possible because it does create a drag on your overall performance. And like I said, you're still a long-term investor. So we got to...
One thing that I have noticed about finances and money is finances are a thing that everybody uses every day, which is totally mysterious to most people.
Well, you're right, and it's interesting. One of my most popular shows, I spent almost 25 minutes going over the mathematics of how a very specific annuity works. And I was terrified to do that. And it was something that if you listen to people on the radio, on TV stations, like Susie Orman or Bob Brinker or even Dave Ramsey, they will all say, generally, don't buy an annuity, don't buy an annuity, don't buy an annuity. And I do the same thing, don't buy an annuity.
Right.
And people would ask me all the time, well, why not? It's not that they're questioning your opinion. They want more information, but these shows don't do it. And I think the reason they don't do it is that if you sit down with an average audience and you give them 20 or 25 minutes of a mathematical explanation, you're going to lose them.
I'm falling asleep.
Well, now the skeptical movement and people that listen to your podcast, and I found out because I did this, people that listen to my podcast aren't necessarily average people. And so when I went through this incredibly long and complicated calculation and showed people how it worked, I got so many calls and so many emails. Wow, Phil, thank you. Now I understand it. I've been hearing for decades not to buy these, but no one ever explained why. And now I went through the detail. I've also done things about the details of whether you should or shouldn't get a reverse mortgage, whether you should or shouldn't get long-term care insurance so that you don't run the risk of going broke if you have to move into a nursing home. And you might be surprised by the answer. And one of my upcoming shows, I'm going to go over all of the details of why you should not save for college.
Now, how can people find out more about all these details that you've been talking about? What's a way to get in touch with you if they have questions?
Absolutely.
Want to challenge you or just get on board?
First, you can do Skype. It's at Skeptic Money. You can email me directly, phil@polarisfinancialplanning.com. You can listen to my podcast, cleverly titled The Phil Ferguson Show. It is on Stitcher, iTunes, most major platforms. If you can't find it somewhere, let me know. I can send you the direct feed link. And, of course, the website, Polaris Financial Planning. Sometimes I'll give a blog post going over one of the things that I talk about, but not everything ends up getting written down in a blog post because I'm a better talker than a writer. And
talker, not a writer.
That's right. Those who know me for years know that my writing sucks. And when I say there to you, if I use the wrong one, you don't know that I said the wrong one. But when I write it, I'll get called out on it, and then it's terrible.
Most people are surprised when they learn my degrees in journalism, but then I clarify it by saying I was in photography. I can create content, but not so much with a grammar and a spelling issue, and I'm a poor typist. So between those three, I'm always needing help when I'm doing something like making the website for gatewaytoreason.com. People have corrected me, and I have thanked them sincerely, and they think I'm being sarcastic or snarpy about it. I said, no, I really do need your help. Thank you very much. So I totally understand what you're saying there.
Well, let's see. Other fun things that I do. I've been teaching myself Italian for almost 4 years now, and so...
C'est bella.
Eccellente. I'm on the verge of... I guess I would call myself conversational. I have had the experience of being in Italy, and my wife and I sat down with Italian couples for a 2-hour lunch, which is not unusual, and they spoke no English, and they had to go slow, and they had to enunciate their Italian, but we could have a conversation. And I grew up studying French in high school and college, and I studied French because I was forced to. I was compelled to. That was, it was a requirement. So I did what I had to do, but I didn't enjoy it. I didn't like it. I always felt horrible. I actually was able to read French at some level, but I could never speak it because when you're in a class of 40 people,
sure. Yeah.
You don't. But so it freaked me out that I'm now able.
More clues when you're reading the language than you do when you're hearing it, because it's like they have a whole other word for everything.
Yeah, slang and colloquialisms and idioms sneak in that aren't part of the formal language you've been taught, so it can be very tricky. But I now like to watch Italian movies and shows and listen to Italian podcasts. And the first time I tried that, I thought, how in the fuck can anyone understand what they're saying? Because one word never ends and another word never starts. It all slams together. It would be, if I talk like this and I go really fast and no one can know what I'm saying, but if you know English really well, you caught that. If you don't, you just got lost. But now I listen to podcasts and I can understand the vast majority of it. So that, of course, is very cool. And I almost forgot to say, in my podcast, just for the listeners to know, it's 1/3 finance and it's 2/3 atheism. So
there you go.
I have had on the author of a book about Femin, which is a group of women that get naked in Europe, in Eastern Europe, and disrupt religion. I have had on Gerald Posner, who wrote a book about God's bankers, the Vatican Bank. He did about spent 8 years doing research for the last 500 years.
Wow.
How the Vatican Bank works.
That sounds like a very painstaking process.
Well, it was so amazing because I loved his book, so I sent him an email, and he's a research journalist, since you've got your journalism degree.
Yay.
And he came back 3 hours later and had researched the crap out of me and knew everything about me and said,
stop it.
No. He said, I must be on your show because my show is a combination of religion and money. And he's like, this is perfect. I've got to be in. So we had a great 50-minute conversation. Had an expert on about general finance. I've had an expert on about bankruptcy, other things. Just recently, I did an interview with Ellery Shemp, and he was personally involved with a lawsuit in his local high school that went all the way to Supreme Court, and is Abingdon, School District versus Shemp, which resulted in public schools across the United States of America no longer compelling students to read the Bible in public school.
Oh, yeah.
So, it's a famous case, and it's one of the shoulders of giants that we also.
Yeah. How long ago was that case?
I think that was in 50s.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I remember, because he was like a little boy when the case went forward, if I recall.
Yeah, I think actually I may have been incorrect. He was in junior high when it started, and they were all compelled to sit and listen to the 10 verses of the Bible being read over the school PA system, and he refused to pay attention and actively ignored the announcement by reading the Quran. And
just real quick, of course I didn't know the case and the law, but when I was in elementary school in Durant, Oklahoma, going to Washington Irving Elementary School, my teacher in 3rd grade would read from us daily from the Bible story.
Yeah, clearly illegal, because I don't know your age exactly, but I'm pretty sure that wasn't in the 50s.
No, that was in the mid-70s.
Yeah, so clearly illegal. That has been affirmed multiple occasions. And we also had a case right here where I live in Champaign, Illinois, where they used to take kids and have them go off-site to local churches to get preached at during school hours. So they thought it was okay since they left the school grounds. And that was went to the Supreme Court as well. And thankfully they made wise decisions. I don't know about today's Supreme Court, if they would do that, but...
Well, we got that one swing vote, but... With that, Phil, I want to thank you for being on the Gateway to Reason podcast.
My pleasure.
And you've been very informative, very friendly, and I appreciate it. And, again, find out more about Phil at PolarisFinancial.com, and we'll be right back after this.
This is Phil Ferguson with Polaris Financial Planning, the home of science-based investing. I see people owning really bad investments all of the time. Many advisors are paid a commission by a big company to sell you something you may not need. It's kind of like church. They create fear, then they tell you what you want to hear, and then they take your money. What you want is an advisor that is paid only by you. That is a fee-only fiduciary advisor. Remember, people work for who they are paid by. You can contact me, Phil, at PolarisFinancialPlanning.com, or listen to the cleverly titled The Phil Ferguson Show. Each show we have an interesting investing skeptically topic and an interview with someone fighting to end religion. Polaris also gives 10% of gross revenue to support the growing secular movement. You're not just getting better investments, you're helping to change the world.
All right, thank you for staying with us. This is Gateway to Reason Podcast, and I am Thomas True. And again, I want to thank our partner, Evolve Fish. Be sure to go to evolvefish.com to find out all the awesome atheist items they have there, including stuff for Gateway to Reason. And you can find out more about the Gateway to Reason conference at gatewaytoreason.com. That is going on August 12th to 14th here in St. Louis at the 516 Music Center. That's on the campus of Washington University in St. Louis. If you want to find out more or give us any messages or questions, contact me at podcast@gatewaytoreason.com. You can also follow me on Twitter at G2RSTL on Twitter. So with us right now, we have Stephanie Guntermson. Pretty close. I was trying.
Pretty close.
Pretty close.
But no cigar.
All right. Well, why don't you say it correctly so we know... and of course, I forgot your middle name, too. You use that quite often, too, Renee. So why don't you say it properly so I don't mess it up? So
It's totally fine. It's Stephanie Renee Guntermson.
Tormson. Okay. So
there you go.
We were practicing, and I didn't say it like that the way I did, and you said that was okay.
It's what I mean when I say it's okay. I'm just like, oh no, like don't worry about it. Like it doesn't offend me that you get it wrong.
Like a Scandinavian, Swedish, Norwegian, something like that.
It is from that general region. Yes.
All right. Well, Stephanie, I do appreciate you being here, and you are one of our speakers next summer, Gateway to Reason, and I do thank you for being here for that. I do want to let you know that, again, that is August 12th to 14th. Tickets are on sale. We do have early bird ticket sales on, and you can save $15 per person by getting your tickets now. So
I highly encourage people to get their tickets soon.
Yeah, I mean, $15 per ticket. I mean, they're just $35 for all 3 days, but hey, $35 is $35. And we have an excellent lineup of speakers. Have you had a chance to look at who's going to be there with you yet?
I could not be more excited to be there, based solely on the speakers that are going to be there. Yes, I've seen the list, and I know like 80% of them personally. So that's good news.
It's always good to hang out with your buddies, isn't it?
It is. Some of these people I haven't seen in years, though I talk to them frequently online.
Right. And some of them I know that you don't know because I try to make sure that there's always somebody who is interesting but not necessarily so well known. So that's kind of makes it fun for everybody. So
fantastic.
Now, Renee, you are the operations director at the Richard Dawkins Foundation, and there is a a longer title with that one. What is that?
It's the Richard Dawkins Foundation for Reason and Science.
Reason and Science. Isn't that awesome?
Those are good
You're
things
the
to have.
operation director for Richard Dawkins Foundation for Reason and Science. I think that's just pretty awesome.
Indeed.
Do you make sure all the reasoning and sciencing is going on?
Not quite. I make sure the doors stay open and that the people who do the reasoning and the sciencing can do their work.
Okay. All right. Well, still pretty awesome, though. Hey,
yeah.
Keep that door open.
No, it's fun. It's a lot of fun. Saw and talked to Richard today because that's how board meetings work. So that's good.
Now, is he mostly in England?
Yeah.
Okay. So, like, we're doing this over the internet. Is that how you normally communicate with him, too?
For the most part.
Oh, that's pretty good. Well, tell me some interesting or even day-to-day things that happen there that our listeners might be interested in.
Well, I'm just going to use this opportunity to promote a couple of our more important projects. The first one is Openly Secular, which is a great program to, it's kind of like a second incarnation of the OUT campaign, but with a lot more resources that help destigmatize non-believers and try to gain acceptance for them in society at large. And then we have the Teacher Institute for Evolutionary Science, or TIES. And TIES is mainly focused on helping middle school science teachers teach evolution. Now you might think, well, shouldn't they already know how to teach it? Well, not always, because middle school science teachers don't need like PhDs in biology to teach middle school science. Right. So what we do is we give them the tools to teach evolution properly, because most of the time they don't have it. It's been super well received, and it's been growing like gangbusters. So if you want more info on TIES and you want to get info on getting involved, you can go to richarddawkins.net/TIES.
Teaching science is an art, oddly enough. I mean, you really have to have a good understanding of the topic, of course, and then good presentation skills and, the ability to engage your students. I was very fortunate that most of my science teachers were pretty dynamic, but one of them was, is Mr. Wizard number 4, Steve Jacobs Jake, who is a consultant for the Mythbusters and has worked a lot in like Discovery Kids and promoting science and things like that. So I was very fortunate that my teachers of science were very dynamic. They knew how to keep the students engaged. I know I didn't do great in science, but because I had really good teachers, I learned a lot. And I think that's really, in the end, what you want as a teacher, that your students things with them. So how long have you been working with that? How long's that TIES program been going on? TIES was formed this year, or at least the program was started this year. We recently had an online webinar for teachers that we were promoting online that ended up, so there was another university that was putting on the webinar, that was hosting the webinar for us. Right. And we got an email from them that said, hey, we have to shut down the registration because not only is it full, but we're beyond capacity. Great. Which That's what you want, isn't it? There were over 200 people registered for that webinar. Science teachers? No. Some of them were homeschool people doing secular homeschool. Sure, yeah. But secular homeschooling, people just interested in learning how to better teach science just in general from all around the world. It was absolutely a huge, stupid success. And this was focused or geared mostly towards teachers who are dealing with the junior high level? Yeah, middle school in particular. That's our main focus at the moment. My hat's off to you for working or attempting, anyone who works for that grade. My background's in journalism, and whenever I had to go to junior high, whether it was in as a newspaper reporter or television reporter, carrying that camera, those kids in junior high just always acted like crazy. I don't know how the teachers in junior high can do that, but some of them do that and are so awesome at it. And I'm surprised looking back that I was such, crazy ape No, really. I mean, no disrespect, but I really, well, we are grade apes anyway. But really, the junior high years are just the worst as far as behavior because they're not little kids anymore, and they're not quite old enough to, behave in, societal wise or whatever that is, So if they have any chance to act up, that's how it works. And when you have a tough subject like science, to be able to relay that to them, I'm just amazed, and I'm just really respect that so much.
Well, one of the things that our director of TIES, Bertha Vasquez, one of the things that was in the inaugural workshop, and you can see this in our video, is they have a way to teach phylogeny, like categorizing the different.
Is that like feeling people's bumps on their heads or something?
No, that's that's a different. That's not pseudoscience. It's completely separate.
Oh, okay, all right.
No, that's phylogeny, not phrenology.
Oh, okay,
it's
all right. I get those things mixed up.
And exactly. No, the way that they have this little this little workshop to teach it is to do it with candy bars.
Okay.
So you categorize candy bars based on different aspects, and it really helps teach how species and individual animals are classified. It's really, really smart. I love it. And then they have one using different shaped spoons and jelly beans for natural selection.
Okay.
That one's really, really fun. Can't give too much away,
sure.
but there's tons.
I'm curious, and I want to ask questions about that. How do you do that? I don't really. I want to go back to junior high now.
I know, I do too. But we have all these like
the acne and all that crap.
we have ready-made lesson plans and labs and lesson plans and so forth on the TIES website at richarddawkins.net/TIES that any teacher or anyone else can now, go and download from.
On TIES, is that just one comprehensive presentation of many areas of science like chemistry, physics, zoology, botany, biology, astronomy, or do they have disciplines that they teach since it's a junior high level?
Right now, TIES is focused specifically on evolution.
Evolution, so it would be biology, basically, right?
More or less.
Yeah.
It's not specifically biology because there's a lot of topics that have to be covered, and they are kids. But yeah, it is the Teacher Institute for Evolutionary Science. Okay. So it's a program specifically to help middle school students learn evolution, and to help the teachers give them the tools to do that.
That is very good. I remember my biology teacher, and the area that we touched in dealing with creation, I guess, is where the book dealt with spontaneous generation. That was kind of the answer to, and it was so, and whatever, Genesis account. So things just can't spontaneous generate out of nothing is kind of how that was dealt with. That's about as deep as it ever got.
That's adorable.
Well, they used to think, or so the textbook did, or was written in it, that frogs came from mud. Because in the wintertime you didn't see frogs, and then in the spring and summer they were all in the lakes and creeks. So they said, well, they must just come out of mud. It kind of made sense if you didn't really investigate it, I guess. Frogs must come out of the mud. And that's about how deep our understanding of science and nature went. So, and if you don't have any deeper understanding than that, then it's easy to cast that aside once you start investigating it. Well, one of the things that helped me the best during I was a Christian for 18 years, including working in a couple of Christian radio stations, one in Oklahoma City and one in Manhattan, Kansas. And even during all through that time, I couldn't ever accept those claims that of a young Earth and all that kind of stuff. And one of the things that helped me a lot was my education in astronomy, the speed of light and distance and galaxies and Doppler effect, redshift, and so on and so forth, because obviously we have evidence to support a long life of the universe. So it was kind of a. That's why I was asking if it dealt with other disciplines. So
we aren't. That's not our forte.
That is okay. It all takes everything, right?
They're super. We're super excited to be able to grow the program, but right now we're going to be focusing on evolution.
I'm just that's my own experience, and I think it's everything that's done to help get more understanding of science is 100% supported by me, at least. So if you don't, well, get on the ball. So you also have a YouTube channel. Because I messed up your name, I'm going to let you name this out. What's the name of your YouTube channel?
My YouTube channel is Think Skeptically.
All right, and explain to us what that means.
Well, without assuming that the audience is that dumb. It's a YouTube channel based.
They haven't heard, so this is the first time they've heard it. So
No. It's more that obviously they can tell it's a play on my first name, but above and beyond that, it's a channel for critical thinking, debunking very, very silly claims, all pseudoscience claims, and keeping a straight head about basically all things science related. I will occasionally do videos that have nothing to do with that, sure, or are specific to trans issues. But other than that, I try to stick around making sure that facts are the main focus, even in my videos about transgender issues. It focuses around facts being more important than people's feels.
Facts are awesome. And I'm going to spell this in case anybody's trying to figure out your YouTube channel, how to get to that. It's Think, T-H-I-N-K, and STEPHTICALLY.
Mm-hmm.
Skeptically.
There you go.
Yeah. And I understand that on that channel you deal with some, was it attacks or discussions that you had with one Adam Miller?
So I have to, because I was sued, I have to keep things very clinical, but I can give you the overall story.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So Adam Miller was a faith healer.
He was a what?
He was a faith healer.
Okay, faith healer.
Yeah, he was operating a faith healing business, where he would make claims about being able to cure everything from childhood cancer to baldness. It was an extensive list of things.
He could even cure you of your skepticality.
I wish, all he had to do was prove it. So I was responding to one of his videos at towards the end of 2014, and about 5 months later or so, he sued me because he said that my response to him wasn't factual, and that I had. I think he said, his main claim was that I had infringed on his copyright, even though what I was doing in my response was covered under the purview of fair use.
Sure.
So that was interesting. The lawsuit kind of backfired on him, though, publicly, because I don't say this to toot my own horn, but these are the facts. I know people in this movement, and I know people that have, large reaches when it comes to, say, media. And so my friend JT Eberhard.
Sure, yeah, JT. No,
he did it. He did a story about what was going on about my lawsuit, and it soon was picked up by just everybody. It was picked up by Ring of Fire Radio, Raw Story, Salon, Tech Dirt.
You rabble rouser.
All these people are picking up, and because they're all independent, they could have their own opinion and their own take on it. Everyone was overwhelmingly not only on my side, even the I think it was the Christian Post, I think it was even on my side, being like, this guy has absolutely no case whatsoever, and yet he's continuing to sue because and the obvious reason was because he doesn't have any magic powers, which was my claim.
I would say that bottom line is that you were cutting in on his money your facts were messing up with his financial stuff, so he wanted to.
I mean, to the extent that the other part of the suit was tortious interference,
Okay.
I would have.
Right. You're gonna have to define that word.
No, I'm going to.
Okay.
But just given that was one of the things, I'll explain what that means in a second. But just given that, I have to agree with your conclusion there. Tortious interference, legally speaking, just means you're interfering with my ability to make money in a way that's illegal by lying about my business. So, because he was claiming I was lying about him, and then that lie was affecting his business. The problem was I wasn't lying. He just happened to not have magic powers, and that his business was a fraud, and what he was doing was ineffective. So, I kept making videos about him. Soon as that happened, I was like, oh, so we made a response video to me, and I said, okay, well, I can play this game. This is easy for me. So I responded to his response, and then I was served. And after speaking with my lawyer, we made him an offer, which was because he really wanted my videos to come down. He really wanted me to take my videos down.
I bet.
And I was just so not going to do that. And then it dawned on me that, well, I'm already giving what I don't use for my legal defense for my GoFundMe, which I had started. I'm already giving the money that I don't use for my legal defense to Opportunity Village, which, great. If you guys don't know about Opportunity Village, we can talk about it in a second. Just in short, it's a charity that helps those with mental disabilities. Get jobs and make sure that they can make a life for themselves. That charity is really, really great, and so we were like, cool. I'm just going to donate everything that I don't use on my legal defense to that fund. So I said, okay, Adam, here's, and I made this public. I said, here's the offer. Here's how you get my videos to come down off the internet. You give Opportunity Village $25,000 by such and such a date, and you drop the lawsuit. You do those two things by this time and this date. My videos will come down. You don't hear from me anymore. Well, of course, he did not do that. He dropped the suit, but he did not donate the money to Opportunity Village. So the videos have stayed up, and you can see them on my channel.
Great.
His channel, he deleted he deleted his entire channel that the original videos were on. He said I hacked them. Like, there's lots of claims if you read the comments, and you find that there's comments from some of his followers and from him specifically under the username Eve Miller, because his wife's name is Eve. Get it? Adam and Eve. Ha ha ha.
Oh,
okay.
My.
Yeah. So you can
really sick.
I get accused multiple times of hacking him, even though anyone can download a YouTube video simply by going to a number of websites with the URL and just putting it in there and clicking download. Like, it's very, very simple, which is what almost all YouTubers do when they respond to somebody. So after all those accusations and all that stuff that happened, since it went all over the internet, as it does, if you Google Adam Miller Healer, almost every single hit is about the lawsuit, which is hilarious because that's not good for business. And he tried to make a little bit of a comeback. He has a new YouTube channel, the name of which I will not say. I do not want to give him any publicity.
I don't want to hear it.
And he had made 2 more videos about me, which he has since taken down. Of course, I subscribed so I could keep tabs, but those are down, and his website's down, though it had been up for like a little while, and then down again. And in his most recent video on his channel, he says he's a retired faith healer, as if you could retire from something that's ineffectual like that. So
retired from that there have faith hidden though.
Yeah, it's really funny. I find it funny that he calls himself retired from something that he wasn't doing anything anyway. Like, I feel like if you're going to say you're retired, you should have done something to retire from.
Yeah.
So
preachers too. So.
Yeah, but it's still, it sounds weird when it hits my ear. That being said, that little episode of my life is now, for over now, though he's threatened to sue me again. But like I said, those videos have come down, so maybe he's done.
Fan, isn't it?
It is. I like it. I like it a lot.
You also mentioned something else earlier, the trans comment, and I know that's very important to you. I would like, because I don't understand that real well, I'm sorry to say, and I'm always looking for more information, so that's something that if you have a few minutes that you'd like to talk about to help someone like me understand, I would very much like to hear about that.
Yeah, sure, no problem. I mean, that's actually what I'm going to be giving my talk about at Gateway to Reason. So I won't give away too much because most of the information I want to give at Gateway to Reason. But just trans in general, just so everyone knows what the word means. It just means a person whose gender identity doesn't match what they were assigned at birth. Okay. That's all that means. It's pretty simple. Right. There's been a lot of stuff in the news about trans stuff, specifically in Houston, where they were trying to get an ordinance passed to make everything like it was an equality ordinance. It was like can't discriminate based on these things.
Right.
Well,
stupid equality.
Certain people with beliefs that are incongruent with reality took that to mean, so we're going to let men into women's bathrooms, which is not even remotely close to what was trying to be done, and put out all this propaganda about it to that effect, and the proposition was defeated. So no equality in Houston.
Well, there you go. Houston, we have a problem.
Seriously, though. Like, that's not even...
You're welcome.
But no, I mean, the stuff I talk about, I did a response somewhat to that video, in the sense that I was like, these are 5 things. I did a video called 5 Myths About Trans Women. Okay. So you guys should check that out. And I say trans women...
YouTube channel, too?
Yes, it is.
All right,
I focus...
Out, guys. Don't wait for the movie. Check out the YouTube video. All right, go watch it. All right.
I focus more specifically on trans women because I'm not a trans man. So those experiences and those things, I can speak like about the very technical medical side of it. But as far as like experience goes,
that's something that fascinates me because I do have a friend who thinks, well, you can't change a Y to an X or an X to a Y.
The chromosome argument. Oh, that one's fun.
Yeah, and I think, and even the little that I know, I said, well, it's quite a bit more than just the chromosome. Yeah, that's a major factor, but that's not by any means the total issue that we're looking at here. So
my favorite response is
hearing it.
My favorite response, and this is one you can use now. You don't have to wait for my talk. You just bring up those people who are called intersex. They're not trans, but biologically speaking, if you were to just look at their chromosomes, there are females that are XY. There are men that are XX. There's XXY, XYY. Like there's different combinations of these chromosomes that cause different issues. Some that don't cause any issues. That's just how their chromosomes are. Go figure. So,
well, it also shows people who think it's as simple as a chromosomal issue, a DNA genetic issue, show that they don't understand, and I learned this from reading Dawkins' books, that genetics is not a simple repeat of a plan, a blueprint. There are problems. Well, that's how we get diversity of everything, So it's not like an exact machinery type thing. So there are issues which makes us all unique, and we need to embrace and accept that, not, remain ignorant about things that are normal.
No, totally. I mean, there's everyone's DNA is going to have variations, and no one's DNA is going to be perfect, because that would mean that we wouldn't have evolution if it was perfect. So, yeah, I don't know what to say more than that, because those people in that argument are just
I appreciate you talking about the little bit that you did here, because to me, I feel ignorant in a lot of this because I don't have a lot of exposure to the that issue in my life. But I do try to keep up with it as like reading and whatever comes about my way to get a what do you call it, fact-based information. That's helpful.
Basing your opinions in science is definitely a good place to start.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, even at the best decision-making process, as rational and logical as we try to be, we're still very emotional beings. So whatever that means. Okay, well, Stephanie, I really do appreciate you being here. And again, I want to mention that your YouTube channel, Think Skeptically.
There you go.
All right. I wrote it down phonetically. Stephanie is the operations director for the Richard Dawkins Foundation of Science and Reason. And we do appreciate you being here on Gateway to Reason. Be sure to check out our podcast. And if you have any questions or comments, it's podcast at gatewaytoreason.com. And follow us on Twitter at G2RSTL. Thank you very much and have a good day.